The Knicks postgame show is presented by Tri-State Audi. Visit your Tri-State area Audi dealer today. Tonight in Charlotte, LaMelo Ball had 25 points, 5 threes. Mark Williams, 3 block shots, and a force inside with 19 points and 14 rebounds. And the Hornets tonight beat the Knicks. Final score 115-98. Great to have you with us, everyone, from our Delta MSG studios. Bill Pidto here along with Alan Hahn. So, Alan, the Knicks led 19-15, and that was basically it. They are tired, and they clearly miss Jalen Brunson. They're now 3-4 without their captain in the lineup.
You know, Clyde said it last night. You might say it was an aberration. He said tonight is a concern, and it's exactly how I felt. And the concern is that we talked going into this game about obviously how fatigued this team is, road weary they are. We pointed out all the travel and everything else. In a game like this, what you would expect, and the key to the game that I had was, what was it, Bill? My key to the game was depth, right? You were going to rely on your depth in a game like this. Instead, they played an 8-man rotation, 3 players off the bench. Didn't get into your depth in the second quarter. When that first quarter, it was clear that still the starters just didn't have the legs. Shots were falling short. They could not move defensively. You needed some energy. You needed some inspiration out of your depth. This was a game to look to your team and say, who's going to step up that we aren't expecting? We've seen a lot of teams lately against the Knicks have some unsung heroes, have big games. The Knicks have to find somebody like that, and this was a perfect night to have that happen. Instead, they went 8-man rotation. And that's going to be questioned. That's going to be something that's going to need to be answered, because at this point of the season and at this point of the stretch of games, this was a night you would think you would rely on your depth and see if you can get that kind of energy off the bench. Didn't happen. And the 3 players that did play off the bench were a combined 3 for 16 and 1 for 9 from downtown. So you mentioned it. You definitely miss Jalen Brunson. There's no question about that. There is a weariness to being on the road as much as they've been. But there are going to be questions tonight about why only 8 players played for the majority of this game.
All right, if you want to look at the total bench scoring, before garbage time, the Knicks bench was outscored 35-7.
Yep.
For the game, if you want to count garbage time, the Knicks bench was outscored 37-11. So,
and that's been a recurring theme, unfortunately, for this team. And that's going to be something that, again, has been discussed all season long. Heavy reliance on your starters and not enough players off the bench that can contribute. Obviously, with Miles McBride, with Deuce McBride in the starting rotation filling in for Jalen Brunson, that's somebody that Tom Thibodeau said. He said, I consider him a starter who comes off the bench. But right now, he's a starter. So his production, whatever he does bring, is no longer there off the bench. Who slides up and can make up the difference? They have not seen that enough this season.
Another factor as we take a look at the game summary in terms of the stats, Alan. The Hornets, 28th in the league from three-point land at 34%. And tonight they shot 47% from downtown. You see they went 15 of 32. Also, how about the rebounding? The Hornets with 52 rebounds and the Knicks with 38. You want to talk about potential fatigue? Josh Hart, normally a powerhouse on the boards, only had 4 rebounds tonight.
Yeah, that's, again, emblematic of a tired team. A team that normally does a good job on the boards, especially a player like Hart, who does that on the boards. You know, the defense, again, against the 3 has been an issue all season, but what we've also seen is teams that don't normally shoot the 3 well have gotten into rhythm early on, and it started with LaMelo Ball. I mean, LaMelo Ball is a player. He's the obvious one that you want to keep an eye on because he is a rhythm player, and when he knocks down, he'll take these crazy long threes. There were a couple in this game that you felt like you're helping the Knicks by taking some of these shots. They were bad shots, but this is too easy. You're seeing him just kind of roll in, stroll in, no hand up.
It's like off of one leg.
Yeah, he does take those one-legged threes. And then there's Mark Williams. Boy, tell you what, Bill, if the Lakers could get a guy like him, how good would they be?
Whatever, he flunked the physical.
If they had a center that could do the things that he does, block shots, finish at the rim, rebound, look at the numbers he put up for a guy clearly very healthy. Clearly a guy that would pass the physical.
That's one of the more bizarre things, is it not?
Geez,
I mean,
what a surprise.
He's traded to the Lakers.
Yeah.
They desperately need a big man.
Yes.
He fails a physical, and now he's obviously healthy
great
enough to put these kind of numbers up for Charlotte.
Yeah, it's amazing. And he had a strong game. And that, again, when we talk about concern, is what he's able to do in the paint against the Knicks. Now, there's no Mitchell Robinson tonight. Karl-Anthony Towns scored well, but again, defensively, he's by himself in there. And he's not a traditional 7-foot center who's going to protect the rim. It's not who he is. So when the bigs get it going like the way Mark Williams got it going, pick and roll was a problem. You could see it from the start of this game that the legs weren't there, the spirit wasn't there, and the Knicks needed to find some inspiration from somewhere else, and that opportunity didn't come up tonight.
All right, so OG Anunoby on the bright side had 25 points. Didn't shoot well from three, only 3 of 12, but did make a season-high 8 free throws. And for the 23rd time this season, Alan, he scores at least 20 points. He had 25.
Yeah, and, the shooting from three was a struggle, obviously, for him, but getting to the free throw line, attacking. We were talking about this at the end of the third quarter because it seemed like he was starting to get his game going in that second half like we saw last night in San Antonio, but it just wasn't enough. But I like when he is this way, when he's aggressive looking for his shot. Now, you're seeing that three go down, but, man, 3 of 12 from three-point range. The fact that
a lot of them were open looks.
They were good looks. Yeah. No, they were catch and shoot looks. They were not forces. The fact that he took 12 threes out of his 19 field goal attempts, that's pretty amazing. It also shows you, though, that he was open on the perimeter. It's just not a good shooting night. You can complain about legs. He did have a couple of and ones. But look at, again, and the play late in this game that really stood out. They were down 12, and Anunoby had the ball. He was trying to make a play in the paint. Mark Williams had a huge block on him. He wanted a foul, and you just saw, his body language, the frustration. He dropped his shoulders. He kind of looked at the ref. He didn't get back on defense. And that was an example of where the Knicks were mentally and physically in this game. Very frustrated they weren't getting calls. It's a physical game. The Knicks at their best play physical as well. But when the body's not willing to do it, the spirit starts to wane. And that's why you get a result like this. The Knicks have had some tough losses. Last night was a loss where you look and you say to yourself, how do you lose to that team? And how do you let a guy like
schedule loss?
Right. You could. But this might be probably the most troubling loss of the season, considering the opponent, where they are in the standings, what they have on the floor, and the fact that you couldn't do anything to stop one of the worst offenses in the NBA.
And without Jalen Brunson, it's very obvious. The offense is just not in sync.
Yep. No tempo.
It's taking too long to get into the sets.
Yep.
They're in a lot of scenarios late in the shot clock where they're having to take shots that they otherwise
But that's
would
not affecting the defense, right? And that's all. You're right. Everything you're saying is right about the offense, that it is a little slower. It's a lot more standstill when they're not in transition, when they're not getting turnovers and turning them into points. And that's, I think, where they thrive in transition, when they get up and down the floor, quick baskets. But the half-court sets are clunky. They're going to be that way. That's why I said at halftime, somebody needs to step up and say, I want the ball. It has to be more than Karl-Anthony Towns, who's in the paint. It's a lot harder to get the ball to your paint player because double teams can come a lot easier. Someone else has to step up and want to be an alpha. It didn't happen. But that doesn't mean, though, a five-man unit can't lock it down defensively against a team like this that you can lock down. The whole league has locked this team down. So that's the part that is the bigger concern. And a lot of times defensive effort in games like this isn't that they don't want to play defense. It's the fact that they are reaching a point where the energy is just not there. And that's why, again, we just continue to harp on it, because I believe it's going to be the topic of conversation here, is that it's, you do have other bodies on the bench. There are guys who haven't played a lot of minutes lately. And there are guys that maybe you just want to see somebody get it going for us defensively. There are a couple of guys off that bench that have defensive resumes that you could have thrown into this game.
All right, you mentioned Karl-Anthony Towns. We mentioned Anunoby had 25. Cat, 24 and 10.
Yes, and again, it's what he's been doing his whole season is the 24 and 10, the double-doubles. But early on, this is another game where for Karl-Anthony Towns, early on, Bill, it looks like, again, he's like, get me the ball. I'll get us going offensively. And early on again, Bill, didn't it seem like he was the only one scoring? It seemed like he could score at will. Now, there's a pass there on a cutter. That was a beautiful pass. He knocked down a couple of threes, started getting into rhythm. It seemed like, okay, he knocks down these threes. The Knicks start to get back, get themselves going. They take that early 19-15 lead. And you say to yourself, all right, they've got him. Now somebody else gets it going, and they'll be able to win this game. The problem was nobody else got it going. But he has been a guy that's been a catalyst to start them off offensively. He's dominated in the paint, but it hasn't been enough because you need others to go along with him. It's hard to have a big man who plays like he does be your lead dog all the time because he's in the paint. Defenses can collapse. You've got to have a perimeter threat as well to balance that.
You know, I want to go back to the Portland game because Mikal Bridges, 33 points, hit the game winner in overtime, hit the three. They were running the offense, the Knicks, through Bridges, with Josh Hart setting screens for Bridges.
Right.
Essentially, he was running the point.
Like he does, like Hart does with Jalen Brunson.
Right, but we haven't seen that to that extent. It's interesting because that seemed to be really effective against the Trailblazers with Bridges actually bringing the ball over the timeline and the offense running through him.
Yeah, but again, that wears a guy down. Like it wears a player down. This is where you really appreciate Jalen Brunson because you keep in mind what it takes for him to do all the things that he does, to carry the load offensively, to bring the ball up the floor, to get the ball back because after he passes it, he cuts. The type of conditioning that you've got to have to do that, the type of just the will, the determination in moments of a game where there were pockets of this game, just like there were pockets of the game last night, is that you say to yourself, all right, Jalen Brunson would have scored a bucket here to slow things down. He would have known, okay, I got to call my number right now. We got to get a bucket here to just stem the tide. And it just didn't happen. So for Bridges, you can call plays for him. But if the first option's not there because the opponent is trying to stop Bridges, they see the curl coming, they know what to do, somebody else has got to get the ball now, right? And so that's what happens. The offense gets a little clunky. You don't have an all-NBA guard on the floor like Jalen Brunson to bail you out in possessions like this. So this is the perfect storm right now of this season. The travel, the energy level, the lack of Jalen Brunson, all of that coming together is showing you why they have lost 6 of their last 9 games.
Reality, though, you lose someone like Brunson, you just tread water, right? They're 3 and 4. You stay around the 500 mark. You get healthy for the playoffs. I mean, that's what we're looking at here. Are we not?
I guess the one saving grace is when you look at the standings, you feel like they're kind of locked in at 3. You know, it would be epic if they dropped to 4, let alone 5, right? At this point, but you never want to take anything for granted. You got to play to win every single game. And that's, again, why when you look at an 8-man rotation, second game of back-to-back in the, 7 of 8 games have been on the road, you know, that's something that I believe that will be discussed and asked about after this game.
All right, we're going to find out because Tom Thibodeau's post-game comments are coming up next. By the way, for the Knicks, next 3 games are at home. Hopefully that'll help get things turned around. Knicks go down tonight. We'll hear from the Knicks coach coming up right after this.
The Knicks postgame show is presented by Audi. Visit your Tri-State Audi dealer today.
All right, Knicks are home. Wizards in town on Saturday, half hour later than normal. Pregame at 7:30, game at 8. Knicks lose tonight to the Hornets, 115-98. Tom Thibodeau's postgame comments, as always, presented by Chase.
You know, probably our defense and the rebounding, you know, we got behind right away. So, yeah, that was probably the game right there.
Looked like it's frustration from a lot of guys on the court. I think just the way things are going.
Yeah, you know, and, you know, I thought, you know, we didn't make our threes in the first half. Like, I think we were 4 for 21, and a lot of them were great shots. And so you try not to, you know, let that take energy away from the other parts of the game. But I thought guys were very unselfish, and we didn't make them. And so that's where you have to count on your defense and your rebounding. And, you know, that's where we fell short. The defense and the rebounding have to be the constants. So the nights that you're not shooting well, you still have a good chance to win. Yeah, I thought for the most part there was a lot of unselfish play. We didn't shoot well, but we had 26 assists, right? And it was low turnover. But I think sometimes when you're missing those type of shots, it tends to, you know, you can't allow that to take away from your intensity or your concentration. The frustration you have to eliminate.
When the bench only has really 7 points, how difficult is that to win?
Yeah, you know, and I don't want to put it on the bench. It was like, you know, everybody. It was all of us. You know, you win together, you lose together. So, our margin of error is tight. It's we're on a back-to-back, and you have to get it done with your defense and your rebounding, and we didn't. That's where we fell short.
For a guy who couldn't pass a physical a month and a half ago, how did Mark Williams look for you?
He's a monster in there. The rim protection is a lot, and then he puts a lot of pressure on the rim when he rolls. Then I thought Nurkic has played really well here. So he's the center position was did damage, and then Ball is a very gifted playmaker, obviously. And then he can shoot it from anywhere. But they played a good game. They played really hard.
With Precious, for him to play really big minutes and then for his minutes to go down, is it hard for somebody like that to get a rhythm?
You have to be ready for whatever your circumstances call for, and we're asking everyone to make sacrifices for the betterment of the team, and so he's been in this situation before where. He's been a starter, he's been a rotation player, and he's been a situational player. So just be ready when your number's called, and he's more than capable.
Knicks are back home Saturday. Note the start time half hour later than normal. 7:30 pregame, game at 8. Knicks lose to the Hornets tonight, 115-98. Tyler Murray after the game with Josh Hart.
I don't know if we can point to one thing, but what's your biggest concern right now?
Mental toughness. I think that's my big concern right now. We can make all the excuses in the world, but there's highs and lows in the season, and no one's 82-0. But the way that we're losing games is embarrassing. So we have to find a way to right the ship. We got to come out next game with more intensity, more desperation. Starts with myself as someone who's supposed to bring energy. I've been, atrocious the last several weeks. So we have to get our minds prepared for, the end of the season.
How much does getting off the road help with all that?
I mean, like I said, we can make the excuses. We've had a terrible 2.5 weeks of travel, but all teams go through terrible travel periods during the season, and it's not an excuse. If we're right mentally, we win some of these games, but we're not doing what it takes. We're not doing the extra effort. We're not giving energy. We're not giving the right output. We're crying to refs. We got to pick it up.
Back now from the corner three, presented by Michelob Ultra Superior Light Beer. And Alan, leave it to Josh Hart to tell it like it is, huh?
Yeah, and that's why you go to him, because you know that he's not going to have the filter on. He is going to say what he feels. And like a good leader does, when you are talking about your team and mental toughness, you make sure you include yourself in that conversation. He's blaming himself. He hasn't played terrible, like he said, or atrocious, I think was the word.
No, he did have a triple-double against Miami.
He has had good games, of course, but that's what a leader does. You make sure you include yourself and say, I've got to be better, which is the right thing to say. But it's clearly something that you can tell in that locker room they're all aware of. And mental toughness is part of mental fatigue when you do get tired and frustrated and all those things that do go on. What Tom Thibodeau said about the missed threes and the missed shots early in games, how it affects the team and it takes away from the effort on defense, the effort in rebounding. Those are things that he's seeing as a coach they got to fix. But it's getting late in the season. The playoffs are a couple of weeks away. So these problems that are creeping up now, this late in the year, this is not when you want to have them. This is when you want to have solved them by now.
Knicks only 10 of 39 from downtown.
Yeah, it's been an issue since All-Star break. They have not. They've been a bottom third three-point shooting team. Before the break, they were one of the best in the league.
All right, Deuce McBride, another start for him. He had 9 points, 1 of 6, though. He struggled from downtown, too. His postgame reaction is coming up. Knicks are back home to host the Wizards on Saturday. Pregame at 7:30, game at 8. Deuce McBride tonight, 9 points. Here he is now after the game with our Tyler Murray.
Is that surprising with what this team has been like?
Yeah, definitely not. It's very uncharacteristic of us to come out the way we did. And we just got to come together and find it. Whatever we have to do, we have to do it.
It seemed like frustration is kind of building a little bit on the court. It looked like guys were a little upset today.
I mean, we all want to win. I don't think it was anything like a sore loser, but yeah, it's frustrating losing. Nobody likes to lose, especially, like I said, at this time of the year. We're trying to tune up and get ready. So I feel like, yeah, frustration is going to be there, but nobody's going to let it, be negative in the sense of it's going to carry on. We're gonna dead it, and we're going to move forward.
Obviously, you guys miss shots sometimes. It happens, but the extra stuff that comes along with it, the rebound, non-rebounding, not the lack of intensity on defense, is that stuff you guys can clean up more than anything?
100%. I mean, I think we were out-rebounded by 14, 15 tonight. Like I said, shots are going to fall, not fall, whatever that is. In that case, we got to clean up on the defensive end, make sure we're doing everything we can for them to miss shots and us to rebound, because we're a talented team. We're going to end up making shots. It's just got to be on the other end.
Do you think it's more mental than maybe you was talking about the physical schedule and stuff, but is what you have to fix mental, getting right that way?
Yeah, what they say, 90% of the game is mental. And I don't think it's cliche at all. I feel like you think you're tired, you're going to come out and you're going to be tired. You're going to come out and you're going to be a little bit late on the rotation, or you're going to forget to box out a guy. So I do think it's a part of a mental thing. And when shots aren't falling on the other side, I feel like guys, including myself, it's harder to be locked in. I mean, that's just the way things are, and you have to figure out a way to change it. And that doesn't always mean just you making shots so everything is good. It means that you got to lock in even more on the other end.
Bride tonight, 9 points, 4 of 10 from the floor. Cat had 24 points and 10 rebounds. We'll continue on the postgame show right after this. All right, we have your upcoming schedule. Alan, the Knicks have 13 games left, 8 on home court and 5 on the road.
And a week home. That's also important to look at, as they'll return home tonight. And so the next time they hit a plane will be next Thursday to Milwaukee. A quick trip there. And again, just being home, being at the Garden, being in front of your fans, that's a perfect way to rejuvenate a team. There's no doubt about that. And hearing what they had to say after this game and the last couple of games, they're very aware of what's going on with them. This feels more like an aberration than it does, this is who they really are. For the majority of this season, this is not who they've been. It's happening right now. They certainly got to fix it. And, of course, looking forward to eventually getting Jalen Brunson back.
All right, so next 3, you got Washington, and then Tuesday, Dallas, Clippers Wednesday. The Dallas and Clipper games, like the Washington game, are at MSG. So you got a back-to-back coming up next week.
You got another back-to-back. You got 4 of them left in the last 13. So there's still a lot of back-to-backs to deal with and a lot of managing players and everything else.
All right, so we'll see you on Saturday, Knicks and the Wizards. We're on a half hour later than normal. Pregame at 7:30, game at 8. You can also stream our coverage on MSG Plus, now in the Gotham Sports app. Want more than just a postgame show? Link your eligible TV subscription to stream Knicks games free, or subscribe today in the Gotham Sports app. Just go to gothamsports.tv to learn more.